people are much more receptive to someone who shows up as their true self, even when it's messy, even when it's not perfect, because they get to see your humanity. They get to see your vulnerability. And I think that as long as we know how to also have that deep level of self-awareness and to be vulnerable and to own our mistakes and apologize when we don't get it right, that's what's going to create true connection.
Hey everyone, it's Amy Lynn Durham, and you're listening to Create Magic at Work. Create Magic at Work is on a mission to equip senior leaders with tools they need to be a true quantum leader and actually understand what that means. Improve employee engagement, retain top talent, and transform your workplace culture to have less drama and stress. So let's start making magic.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Create Magic at Work. Ashley Cox is here with us today. She's a leadership mentor for ambitious women business owners who have a team but no time. She empowers them to become courageous and confident leaders, building high-performance teams they can trust and rely on without constantly chasing them to get things done. Ashley is also a sought-after speaker, author of the book Transform Your Stories, and host of the Impact Ripple podcast. Ashley, welcome to Create Magic at Work.
Thank you so much for having me here, Amy Lynn. It is an absolute pleasure and a delight to join you for a conversation today.
One of the things that I want to dive right in, thanks for being here, is you talk about traps that keep leaders stuck. And there's 3 common traps that you talk about: the worker bee, the niceness trap, and the helicopter leader. Let's talk about these 3 things, because I know everybody listening right away is probably like, ooh, I might be one of those right now. Or, oh yeah, I've been the helicopter leader in the past. I know I've been the helicopter leader in the past. And I think I've fallen into the niceness trap, although somebody might argue that if they know me personally, how candid I could be. Worker bee for sure. Worker bee for sure. So tell us a little bit about those 3 traps and maybe some ways that you can help us live a more fulfilling life and kind of break free from those traps.
Absolutely. I would love to share about this because it's something just so common that I see in my work with leaders over the past almost 20 years. And I've also noticed these things in myself as a new leader, as an inexperienced leader, as a frustrated leader, as an exhausted, overworked, overwhelmed leader. And so these are not just things that I've noticed in other people, they're lived experiences for me as well. So the worker bee is where you're the go-to person for everything. Instead of, leading, you're really stuck doing it all. And this kind of looks like taking on too many tasks by yourself, even the small ones. A lot of times you might hear yourself saying things like, well, it's just quicker if I do it myself. That one's relatable, isn't it, Amy?
Yeah.
You might feel guilty if you're not working. I think this is really kind of an endemic in the world today, is that we're wearing busyness as that badge of honor. And if we're not working, we don't see the value in ourselves, in our being, in our place in this world. It might look like checking work constantly, even during off hours. So evenings, weekends, scrolling your email at family dinner, you're missing time on vacation because you brought your laptop because you just have to check in. So this can be a really exhausting sort of hamster wheel to be in as the worker bee. Then we have the niceness trap, and that is people pleasing at our own expense. It's kind of when we become the martyr within the business, and it builds a lot of deep resentment and frustration within ourselves, but it's also something that our team can come to resent from us as well. A lot of times the symptoms that we might see here is avoiding conflict at all cost, and you're just kind of like, oh, please just make it go away so that I don't have to deal with it. Struggling to say no to anything. I know a lot of the women that I've worked with over the years have a hard time. They feel obligated to say yes. They feel like someone's going to be mad at them, or they're not going to think that they're a team player, that they're not helping out enough, even if they have a whole workload behind the scenes that person can't see. Over apologizing for things that aren't your fault. I realized this one when someone gave me the exercise to notice how often I was saying I'm sorry. And oh my gosh, it was a lot It's like, I'm sorry for this. I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And when I started reframing that to be, thank you for your patience. I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me today. I, really started to understand how much I was minimizing my leadership, my ability to show up, the value I had to bring to the table. And so a lot of times the niceness trap can really kind of, we want to be empathetic, compassionate, kind leaders, but then we end up becoming a doormat because we can't set healthy boundaries. We can't ask for the help that we need. We can't rally our team around us to do the work because we're too busy falling on our sword. And then we have the helicopter leader. And the helicopter leader is a term that I coined based off of helicopter parenting. And so I feel like everybody kind of understands like that's the hovering, the second guessing everything, the needing to be involved in every detail, make every decision. And so we create a lot of roadblocks for ourselves. It might be that you're constantly checking in on employees, even ones that are capable, they've proven their skill set, they're trustworthy, asking for frequent updates on tasks or needing to give approval on every single decision or item or task that's on a list or on a plan, giving excessive feedback and corrections. Feedback and corrections are important. They're necessary, but we don't have to redline every single email that goes out, every single social media post that is made, every single proposal that's being delivered. So, a lot of times, what happens is we delegate the work, but then we take it back because, well, I can just do it better. And that is not good for building trust and rapport with your team. And so a lot of times we get stuck in these traps. And the interesting thing is just like you were mentioning at the start, Amy, is that, oh, I noticed myself in this trap and I noticed myself in that trap and maybe a little bit in this trap. They're all interconnected. And a lot of times there's like a trigger trap. So we might start down the worker bee trap, but then we fall into the niceness trap, or we might start in the niceness trap and that triggers the helicopter leadership trap. So it's really interesting when you start looking at the dynamics and the interplay of those three together as well.
For the worker bee trap, it feels really familiar to high achievers, hyper achievers, and to some that have built their success through grit, through being a worker bee, or at least it feels that way. How can someone actually let go of doing everything themselves when they're like, but this is how I got here. This is what worked for me to become high achieving. How does that get reprogrammed, and does that even feel like it works?
Yeah. This is such a great point and great topic of conversation because I see this a lot. We get to where we are in leadership roles because we were such high performing, hardworking. You hear about good work ethic and they always showed up and they always said yes to every project. The problem is that we often reward people for those traps because we're seeing that as going above and beyond. Somebody that shows up, somebody that can be trustworthy. And so, a lot of times in corporate structures, what we see is that we're exemplifying those toxic traits and behaviors, and we're glorifying busyness and we're glorifying sacrificing your personal life for work. And so, part of this is a cultural issue that we can continue to work on ourselves and from company structures. And then part of it also is understanding that we have to redefine what our role looks like when we become a leader, and that our role isn't doing, that it's leading and coaching and guiding and mentoring and providing resources and clearing roadblocks. And that's a big job. That's a full-time job. So if you're doing that job and you're trying to do all of the tasking and the doing, then no wonder you're overworked and you're burnt out and you're working, 80 hours a week and you never see your family and you can't take a vacation. So we have to take some time to develop that self-awareness of, am I helping or am I doing? Because a lot of times what we think is helping is actually becoming a crutch for our team. We're not teaching them how to think for themselves, how to think critically, how to solve problems, how to learn new skills. And so we're actually robbing our team members of their own critical development when we stay stuck in that role.
Yeah. We had a coaching contract with Create Magic at Work that we were working on this year, my team of executive coaches and myself. And a couple of things come to mind just from this one particular interaction with this company, and I'm gonna keep it anonymous, obviously, and confidential. The feedback that came from one of the clients that was being privately coached was they had this realization in their executive coaching session that when they are not delegating, they change that word out to empowering. They're not empowering their team. And they had this realization that they were giving the impression that they didn't believe in their team by holding on to everything. And I just thought, yes, that is one, the beauty of executive coaching, but two, exactly what you're talking about, just with like different language. But if we could reframe that, if we could see that as like, oh, my team's going to think I don't believe in them if I'm like doing everything myself. I see it with a lot of women too. They'll do all of the work thinking, oh, I'm alleviating your suffering. I mean, they're not going to say that out loud, but it feels like it's that empathy piece. It's the shadow of empathy. And then they get burnt out. So I just wanted to share
And
that.
that's very much the niceness trap.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and that's exactly what the niceness trap is. We tap into the shadow side of empathy, the shadow side of compassion, the shadow side. Because we're compassionate doesn't mean we become a doormat. Because we're empathetic doesn't mean that we keep all the things for ourselves. And I think that's where we start to get it's really that spectrum, right? It's we can be overly compassionate or we can be overly dogmatic and ruling with an iron fist, and that's where we start to feel like we're putting on a mask. If you're a naturally compassionate or empathetic person and you're trying to be harder, tougher, less caring because you think that's what it requires to be a leader. And I see this especially in corporate positions, right? Like you've got to put the pants on and climb the ladder with the guys. And so I must act like my male counterparts in order to be effective. And that just doesn't work for us because you can only put on a mask for so long before it's hot and sweaty and it's sticky and you need to take it off, right? It just doesn't feel good. But it really is. It's a hard transition to make, and so many leaders don't have the support they need in going from an individual contributor to a leadership role. And I think that's where we really see that gap and start to see those traps really coming through. And I love that this person identified delegating maybe it doesn't feel like an appropriate term for me, or it doesn't feel like a good term, or it doesn't have any connection. No, we have to have connection with the words that we use. And for them, that's empowered. For me, I like to say, I'm trusting my team to do this. I hired you to trust you to do this job. And if I don't let you do it, then I'm demonstrating to you that I don't trust you, that I don't believe in you, that I don't think you can do it. And then that also kind of turns back on me. I don't trust myself that I hired the right person, that I know how to let go and allow my team to support me. And so I talk about this a lot with something I call the triangle of trust, where we really have to have these four components of trust in order for our team to be highly effective and high performing. And part of that is that we as leaders have to trust our team, and our team has to trust us, but our team also has to trust one another. So it's our job to help instill that trust within our team. And at the core of all of it, we have to trust ourselves, because if we don't trust ourselves, we're not going to be able to build trust outwardly with other people as well.
Yeah. And the only thing that I have found in my work is the only way to do that is to build your self belief muscle by taking small risks and small steps. It's like building self belief with risk taking. And then it starts enhancing that trust more and more with your team if you're a helicopter leader and you're working on kind of letting go. You mentioned that you have a specific way that you might want to share that we can kind of get to the bottom of these traps. What was it called? The fire map? Or do you want to share a little bit about that? Did I get that right?
It's fire mapping method. It's this process that I came up with when I really started to see that leaders were often treating the symptoms that they saw in their teams of, like something's on fire. My team is, let's say, they're making mistakes all the time. And it's the same mistakes over and over and over. And I'm constantly coming behind and I'm having to correct the typos, or put the alt text into the image description on the web page, or I'm having to format the blog post in the certain way that, that we need it. And so a lot of times what they're doing is treating the symptom. I'm going to go in and I'm just going to fix it because it's easier and it's faster if I just fix it. When in the long run, you're actually dragging that out because you're fixing it every single day or every single week, forever and ever and ever. But if we look at the root cause, is it a communication issue? Is it not being able to set clear expectations? Do we not have processes or documentation in place to support the trainings? You're the expert in your business, or you're the expert in your team. If you work within a corporate structure, right? You know the ins and outs better than probably anyone else. What happens though is that our teams aren't mind readers. And so we've got to get the stuff that's inside our head out of our heads. And whether that means we need to hone our communication skills so that we're conveying that information more clearly, more succinctly, more effectively, or we need to put a process in place that allows us to step out of the weeds and allow our team to have resources and tools so that we don't become the crutch. We're not the resource, the ultimate tool that they come to, and kind of tugging on our shirt sleeve every day going, hey, what did we do with this again? What do we do with that? Where's this at? Where can I find that? How do I do this? That's exhausting. So we need to get you out of those weeds and identify what's the root cause of your specific fire. And let's solve from that point so that we can put it out today and we don't have that as a recurring issue going forward.
Yeah, I was asking about that because you were talking about how it uncovers root cause, which is one of the main skills, or one of the higher level skills of being a wise and effective change agent, is not rushing to quick fixes, but really seeking to uncover root cause. And so if someone listening feels like, oh, I might be in one of these traps and I want to get out of the trap, I think reaching out to you and talking about your fire mapping method might be kind of cool to explore.
Yeah, thank you. It's really it's a fun process, and it's one of those things that it does take sometimes an outside perspective to see what we've been allowing to happen in our businesses and in our leadership. And so many times the issues that I'm seeing aren't issues with your team. A lot of times people come to me and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, I just want to fire everyone and start over." And I get that. I've been there before too. But a lot of times it's just one small micro adjustment. It's one small tweak. A lot of times people think, oh my God, I'm going to have to overhaul the whole team or overhaul the whole business or overhaul my whole leadership approach. But it's usually one or two micro adjustments. We can polish those up, and it's going to create so much more efficiency and so much more effectiveness that allows you to step more fully into your role. Because if you're doing everybody else's job, who's doing your job? And the problem with that becomes the business suffers, the team suffers, revenues suffer, right? Like we're not building a sustainable business that can bring to life whatever it is that you've wanted to create, whether that's within the context of a corporate structure or within your own business. And it's also not very fulfilling. One of the things that I did want to mention too, you mentioned something earlier that we talk about too inside of this process is when we take certain actions, like taking work back from someone, like, oh, they didn't do it right, or I had to redline it. We erode that trust. And then that person starts to think, oh, well, they don't trust me. I'm not going to put my best effort in because I know Ashley's just going to come behind me and she's going to fix it anyways. So it becomes that self-fulfilling prophecy too, which we don't want to encourage.
Hey everyone, Amy here. Let's talk about work realities for a second. Whether you're dealing with a tough boss, struggling with team miscommunication, feeling stuck in decision making, let's be real, work drama exists and it's exhausting, but it doesn't have to be this way. At Create Magic at Work, we help leaders like you cut through the chaos, build next level communication skills, and make better, faster decisions without the stress spiral. Whether you're leading a team or just trying to keep your sanity at work, we've got your back. We coach executives and teams like yours to develop interpersonal savvy, drive engagement, and bring your vision and purpose to life so work actually feels energizing again. Imagine that. More engagement, more productivity, less drama. Our executive coaching team has been in your shoes. We've led teams, navigated workplace challenges, and know what it takes to help you succeed and achieve your goals. Real experience, real talk, and real results. If you're thinking, yes, Amy, we need this at my work, then let's talk. Click the link in the show notes and let us help you and your teams become a high-performing, engaged, and productive force of clarity and calm. I'll see you in the Zoom room. Let's throw the stress and drama out the window. Click on the link in the show notes.
So how does somebody, if I'm looking at something and I notice that something needs to be fixed, how do I not fix it?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? Part of it again goes back to setting clear expectations, having standards, having this is the way that we double check to make sure that information is accurate. Also understanding that some things just really aren't the hill that we want to die on, right? A typo in an Instagram post probably isn't going to be the end of the world. An incorrect quote in a proposal, that's a really important piece of the puzzle, right? So we also want to look at what are essential, non-negotiable A plus level work. What has to be 100% correct before it goes out the door because it impacts revenue, it impacts company reputation, it impacts our clients' ability to trust in us. And what is something that we can tolerate B plus level work? It doesn't have to be perfect, but it should be really darn good. And so I think a lot of times what we're going to see is if you listed those things out, there's very few essential A plus level work tasks that are actually inside of our businesses. And most things fall under that B plus level work. So getting really clear on that for yourself as a leader and then communicating that and what that looks like to your team to help everybody to get on the same page.
We've talked about authenticity quite a bit on Create Magic at Work. Like, how can you remove all the masks you wear? How can you show up as your authentic self in the workplace? I just saw an interview. I can't remember who it was, but the woman was saying you cannot be your authentic self at work. It was a really popular interview. It was like, I think it was on Diary of a CEO. And she was like, it doesn't work. We have the data and there's no way you should be your authentic self at work. It was like, millions of people viewed it. And I was like, oh, wow, we've been talking about this on Create Magic at Work for a while. And I always thought like, gosh, like if you show up as your authentic self, you're more comfortable, you create more psychological safety with other people show you who they really are, you connect, it's human to human. All of a sudden you're collabing better, you have better creativity, you're problem solving better. I mean, I was just connecting the dots all the way down. I've lived it, right? I've lived it with a team of hundreds. So what is your take on that? Because I know you talk about authenticity quite a bit.
Yes, that article is heartbreaking.
It was an interview, yeah.
Interview. Yeah, the interview, that's heartbreaking. I've lived both lives also with hundreds of employees. I've led teams of up to 350 employees. And when I led in ways that were inauthentic and unnatural and deviated from my core values and who I am as a human, things went sideways and it was messy and it was hard and it was really difficult to build trust because they were like, well, today you're this and yesterday you were that. And so it's hard to create continuity and cohesiveness and consistency as a leader when you're trying to show up as someone that you're not. And I think that people are much more receptive to someone who shows up as their true self, even when it's messy, even when it's not perfect, especially when it's not perfect, because they get to see your humanity. They get to see your vulnerability. And I think that as long as we know how to also have that deep level of self-awareness and to be vulnerable and to own our mistakes and apologize when we don't get it right, that's what's going to create true connection every day of the week instead of trying to show up as someone that you're not.
What do you sense for the future of leadership and work with all of this? I don't know. I just see like everybody, a lot of companies are requiring that everyone go back from work from home, which I think either one, it all depends on what works for you, right? Like work from home might not work for some. There seems to be some interesting changes in the entrepreneur space. I've talked to a few colleagues that are interested in transitioning out of the corporate space and maybe starting their own business. I'm sure some of the listeners here have their own business. So, what is your sense for what's to come for the future of work?
I was really hopeful when, due to the terrible circumstances of the pandemic, everybody was forced to work at home. But companies finally saw that it was possible and that it wasn't as complicated and that productivity actually soared and it didn't fall backward. And I was like, this is the change that we needed to be able to see so that companies could trust their people to work at home and to offer that as an opportunity. I'm sad to see a lot of companies mandating the return to work full time and not offering options. I think one thing that we can learn and one thing that I hope to see kind of come back and be spearheaded more in the future is that every individual works differently. And if we can offer a variety of options to our workers for what suits them best, their personality, the way that their brain works, the way that they feel motivated, we're going to see a team of people that you can rally and pull together and that do their best work and that collaborate effectively because they feel supported. And so I keep hoping that we are finding our way there, even if we take a few steps forward and a step back and a few steps forward and a step back. And I think the more, if you're starting your own business, think about, how can I work with the individuals on my team? Because part of being a compassionate leader too is also looking at the humanity in the other people that are on the team. What do these people need? How can I support that? Is this a task that has to be done in the office? Is this a task that has to be done this certain way or that certain way? And just really being open-minded. I think we get too entrenched in, well, this is the way it's always been done, or this is the only way I've ever seen it done, which is just as toxic, instead of saying, well, what's possible? And asking your people. A lot of times we think we have to have all the answers as a leader, but our team is there for a reason and we can leverage them for their input and their answers. And guess what? We can always try stuff. And if it doesn't work out, we can try something different. So I think a lot of flexibility and adaptability is going to be paramount as we continue to figure out, what does work look like in 2025, 2026, and beyond.
Love that. I always say, or I always try to get the point across here on the podcast that, like, if you step into those rooms, if you step into a room and you have a promotion, if you are starting your own business, I don't know, just do something different than the way it's been done before, or at least explore that. Because I think you mentioned in the beginning of our conversation how oftentimes we'll step into a leadership role and we'll think we need to behave a certain way. And oftentimes it's the way that the other people are behaving in the room. So we sort of mirror that or mimic that. And we think that that's our path to success. And you know what? Frankly, sometimes it is. Sometimes that's what we've signed up for. And that's the system that we're in. And sometimes we have to accept that. But if there's moments where you can maybe do things a little bit differently that tap into that quantum leader, making business decisions from your inner wisdom and compassion, I mean, that's truly how I think the workplace can slowly transform. And my hope is people just will start choosing to work for those types of people, and then the rest will kind of like fade away. It's probably like a super idealistic hope. I'm going to pull a card for you and for everyone listening from the Create Magic at Work Journal Prompt Card deck. It's a deck of 33 cards, and each card has an affirmation and a theme for everyone listening, for your career, for your work. So I'm excited to see what comes up today. These cards have been like, not that they've never been fun, but they've been pretty fun lately. Like, I don't know. I've been getting some fun messages. Let's see what we got. Oh gosh. Not that this isn't fun, but I'm like, did I ruin this? No, I'm just kidding. We got mentorship.
Oh, nice.
I was like, give us like the bubble bath. Give us, thanks universe. We'll take mentorship. It's fine. But the affirmation is, I willingly share knowledge with others in order to leave a positive legacy. So if you're listening right now, I think this has been a theme throughout the conversation. Like, what knowledge can you share with others to leave a positive legacy? Are you thinking about that? Or are you just thinking about, like what Ashley said in the beginning, the person that's just like the worker bee, like working through all of the tasks? that person isn't visioning what their positive legacy could be or how they're leaving a positive legacy with the people that they work with. So, how does someone seek out a mentor? How would you recommend someone seek out a mentor?
Yeah. I think one of the most important dynamics of the mentor-mentee relationship is the connection that you have with that person. Anybody could be a mentor, anybody could be a mentee, but do you have a connection that goes deeper? And so look within your circle and see, is there somebody who's farther along than I am that I already get along with that I could benefit from a formalized mentoring relationship? Is there someone that I might have, a connection who knows somebody who would be a great mentor? I'm thinking of all the ways that I've had mentors and been a mentor to people over the years. Sometimes it's parents that introduced me to their child. Sometimes it's been people who saw my work on the internet and reached out and they were like, "Hey, I love what you're doing. Are you taking any, new clients right now? I'd love to get that kind of support." At speaking events, I had a young lady come up to me at a speaking event. She goes, "I really love what you're doing. Are you taking any mentees right now?" And so I do some pro bono mentees every year, especially like college age students and new career professionals. And I love that opportunity to pass my knowledge on, to share in the excitement of the future. And I think the biggest thing that's so compelling to me when somebody has approached me to be their mentor is that they know a little bit about me. They know specifically how we connect from a values perspective, and they understand that that relationship is sacred and they want to be a part of something and they're willing to put in the work that it also takes, because a mentorship isn't just I'm giving you everything. It's you showing up, asking good questions, being engaged, being involved, taking responsibility, taking action, and being willing to say, wow, that didn't really go great. I tried this and that. What else can I do? And I think it takes a level of honesty and transparency and vulnerability. So you've got to have the connection with that person that's going to allow you to be psychologically safe in that relationship.
And I like how you mentioned the specificity of it. Like, have something specific that you want to learn from that person in mind when you reach out to them. I think that's really important because it sort of gives everybody a baseline on what they're working with.
And one mentor isn't going to solve all of your problems. you know, like over the years, I've had many, many mentors. And so that specificity is like, what do I need right now? Do I need help with my confidence? Do I need help with communication? Do I need help with managing burnout? Who can I seek out to help me? And so a mentor is for a period of time. A mentor isn't necessarily forever. And a lot of times they serve their purpose in that moment.
On that note, if people want to connect with you, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, you can reach out to me, ashleycox.co, everywhere you go. And if you're specifically interested in the fire mapping process, I have a program called Fireproof Strategy Sessions. They're 60-minute sessions where we help to put out that fire that's keeping you up at night. And you can find that at ashleycox.co/fire.
Oh, that's so cool. So they can book a 60-minute, like, let's put the fire out session. I love that.
Let's put the fire out because we ain't got time to waste.
I love that. Well, Ashley, thank you so much for being a guest on Create Magic at Work. And thank you for sending some magic to everyone today.
Amy Lynn, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. I loved our conversation. And I hope everyone listening today walks away feeling a little more inspired to let go and trust your team.
I want to thank each and every one of you for coming back every week to listen to a new episode of Create Magic at Work and really helping to support and advocate for healthy leaders, workplaces, and lives for all of us. If you want any information on how to connect with me, click on the link in the show notes. You'll get access to all of the social media links for Create Magic at Work. Stay following along for more amazing episodes where we help you improve productivity and profitability in the workplace and decrease stress. Sending magic to everyone, and see you next time.